Welcome to the Suzanne and Sarah Real Estate Investing Podcast. We're Suzanne and Sarah, your favorite duo here to talk about all things real estate, investing, and living life you love by design. Ready to turn those big dreams into big moves? Let's get started because time is money, honey.
Thanks for tuning in to the Suzanne and Sarah Real Estate Investing Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then subscribe and leave us a review because your feedback helps us reach people like you who are ready to elevate their lives. Don't forget to share this episode with someone who's passionate about real estate or personal growth. And for more tips, resources, and updates, follow us on Insta or visit us at CentralOregonInvestorNetwork.com. And remember, you have the power to design the life you want, one real estate investment at a time. See you next week.
Suzanne and I are here recording our very first ever podcast episode, and there's going to be a lot of hiccups along the way, but we're here to introduce ourselves, what we plan to do with these podcast episodes, and give you the chance to learn a little bit about us before we dive into the more juicy stuff on a weekly basis.
Oh, yeah. Well, welcome to what we're going to call the Suzanne and Sarah podcast.
Yep.
Might as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep moving. I'm Suzanne Moore. I am a real estate investor and real estate broker in Oregon. I've been licensed now for almost 11 years. And I got my real estate license when I was still working my corporate job in the footwear industry in Portland, Oregon. I got my license because I was starting to invest in real estate myself, and my goal was to create passive income. And I did it pretty quickly and realized it was not that hard, but I had nobody to guide me through it. The real estate agent that I used at that time was not investor focused, and so I had to figure it all out on my own. So I figured I might as well share what I had learned with other people in my network. So I got licensed in addition to working full-time in marketing for footwear. So fast forward a lot of years, we kept adding to our portfolio. We added single and multifamily rentals, short and long-term strategy. We also did live-in flips and some other house hacks. We did house hacks and then started investing in Bend, Oregon in 2018 with the ultimate goal of moving to Bend, but I thought I'd have to retire to do that. Well, COVID happened and I got to move to Bend faster. So started transitioning my real estate business over and moved to Central Oregon. Started the Central Oregon Investor Network and met Sarah, and the rest is fabulous, wonderful history of creating an awesome real estate business together and investing and helping other people in our community and beyond start investing, keep investing, and everywhere along on their real estate investing journey, just help them achieve their goals.
As many times as I've heard your story, I continue to love to hear it. And you're just so good at telling it. So thank you for sharing. I love your stories. Okay, so my name is Sarah Willis. I'm originally from Key West, Florida, and I will say that's definitely been a big shaping piece of who I am growing up. It's a very unique place where sort of like all things go and you don't turn your head to anything and you accept all people for who they are. And I feel like that's definitely translated to me in my adult life. I am relatively new to the real estate industry, but I mean, like I keep saying that, and I guess it's already been 4 years, but I got my license at the end of 2020. And prior to that, my only real career before real estate was being a commercial organic farmer. Commercial meaning that I was growing on a scale that was providing thousands of pounds of food to restaurants and grocery stores and direct to consumers along the way. It was a fabulous passion project that my husband and I spent a lot of years on and was really fun, but it just ended up being more work than it was really worth. And it sort of translated to a lot of martyrdom And there's just lots of phases of life for people and things. We have two wonderful young children at this stage in our life. And we decided a few years ago, 2019, that it was time to change directions. And it took me about a year to really sit with what I was going to do coming from this passion project of growing food on a commercial scale and feeding people and managing that business because it was a very ego-based business. I think when you're a farmer, like you are a farmer and it's hard to imagine yourself as anything but. But what I knew at that time, like I just focused on what I knew, and what I knew was that place was really important to me as it is with farming and where we were at the time. And our next place was going to be Bend, Oregon. So I just started doing research about moving there, got hooked up with a mentor out here before he was even licensed. And I realized in this like midst of change before we had sold our farm and made this transition that, buying this piece of land when we were 26, this old farmhouse, I think we bought it for $275,000. We didn't know anything about real estate or real estate investing. We just knew that to be farmers, we had to own land in order to do it. We slowly flipped our home. We renovated our home from top to bottom over the course of 5 years. And because we wanted to make this transition, the fact that we had done that and what I know, like through language now in real estate investing, forced our own equity, that was the only thing that allowed us to make this transition. I just realized, wow, like I love marketing. I love people. I love place. And I realized that, gosh, what I wasn't loving about farming, which was like the solitude, the not being connected to people, the not making enough money piece, not having enough free time, I could achieve all of those things and more through just like owning a home and being able to leverage that. So really all that to say that I sort of accidentally fell into real estate without even really knowing much. So got my license in 2020. We leveraged our home in terms of being able to double our money. We're able to buy into a crazy time here in Bend in 2021 and have become a real estate investor since. And it's just been fast and furious. Yeah, you'll learn more about me and my investments along the way and what we've learned, but that's how I got to where I am now in a very disjointed way.
Sarah, something I remember you telling me when we first met about your transition from farmer to real estate agent that just stuck with me is you were done being poor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up with this mentality that you had to work really hard for everything. Everything had to be really hard. And that's the only way that I was able to show that I was worth anything by working my ass off. And it was really easy to show productivity physically through farming. And so I think, and I've always had a strong connection to food too. So anyways, all those things worked for me then, but then just like realizing at some point, like, life doesn't have to be hard. You can make your own choices. You can change anytime you want. You can reinvent anytime you want. So yeah, it's fun being fluid and just, yes. So thanks for pointing that out. And yeah, a lot of people have negative feelings about money or weird self-worth feelings around money. And that takes healing and time and process to know that you're worth it. Like your time and being is worth being able to buy yourself time and freedom. And that's the ultimate goal. No.
Exactly. Yeah. Changing your mind about what it means to be successful. And it doesn't necessarily mean hard work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, perhaps working smart.
Yeah. Leveraging your experiences and the other skills that you have besides being able to exploit your labor body. Well, we covered our transitions into real estate. I think challenges in the early days would be kind of a fun one to cover, maybe.
Let's do it.
Yeah. I think I'll just jump into this one. We'll just say this out loud right now. I think a large part of our audience that we're going to be speaking to is other agents and hopefully, and just like people considering getting into real estate in general. So I think it's good to share some of our early challenges. I think some of the early challenges for me were finding where I really fit in. And we mentor people now, right? I think one of the most important things that I like to see in someone getting into real estate, or people in general, are people knowing it's so important to just know yourself and who you are and be confident in yourself and who you are and like really embrace that. Whatever's different or unique or authentic about you. What happened to me early on is like I tried to put myself in boxes in regards to different brokerages that I signed up with that didn't really fit my personality or wasn't really surrounding myself with people who saw my value or my worth or who I was. And I think it really is just a matter of taking that very intentional time to know yourself first and then ask for what you want. And that's, I think, one big reason why we were able to come together, Suzanne, is because you and I both really knew what we wanted. And then just find yourself in the right place and surrounding by the, right people to support yourselves in that. So yeah, I hopped around a few brokerages before I found that. And I don't know, things are pretty easy where we are right now. I'm doing all right.
I can relate to some of that of what you were saying, Sarah, too. After I got my license, I was working at Adidas, and ultimately my goal had been, since I got my license, to work my way out of corporate. And in 2014, I thought I was ready. So I left Adidas tearfully, but on my own accord to get into real estate. And I joined a really small boutique investment focused brokerage with 4 people in the office. And I had come from this huge corporation where I had a team around me always. And I got to this tiny office with 4 people, all of whom were basically my quote unquote competition. And I had no guidance and no team. And that's when I realized I don't want to do real estate unless I have a team. And I didn't know that until I got into that position. And that is really what helped me focus. Fast forward to when I established the Central Oregon Investor Network in Bend, making sure that I had a team because it's so much more fun together.
Yeah, fun and everything else.
Yeah, manageable, uh,
Which is that's what
like rewarding on all levels. So
Yeah.
for me, recognizing that I needed to bring something from my corporate life that was very familiar, which was teamwork, into my new career was really important and something I didn't expect or I wasn't prepared for.
I love that. Yeah. I've never been very good at team sports, so I'm surprised that we
Well, neither. I hated team sports.
put a dual sport first. It's a lot too many fireworks, Suzanne. I'm curious if you really ever had any moments of doubt or what were your early obstacles in real estate?
Yeah, I definitely had doubts. The first time I left Adidas, I had doubts of whether I could be successful in a different industry on my own without all of these wonderful corporate resources. Yeah, definitely doubted myself. So I basically double dipped. I worked in corporate up until the end of 2022. So while I was no longer working at Adidas, I was at another footwear company. And I was scared to let go of the golden handcuffs of working for corporate and knowing that I had a steady paycheck, health benefits, a retirement account, very clear seasonal cadence of what I was going to be doing, where I was going to be traveling, and all the things, and becoming completely autonomous and creating my own structure. Doing both for a while helped me create the real estate structure that I needed to overcome those doubts so that I could let go of the corporate rung and move completely into real estate.
Would you say the solution to overcoming those early obstacles was in part double dipping for a while, or would you attribute it more to because you know how much value having coaching and support from professional coaches to help you through that transition?
I paid 3 coaches
Yeah.
to help me transition. I had a life coach, a career coach, and a real estate coach. 3 people. The value of coaching is not lost on me and something that I think is crucial for anyone making a big life transition to do so as successfully as possible. I know you didn't have coaches through this process, so obviously it can be done successfully without that. Perhaps for folks coming from the corporate side, however, it could be a really important facilitator to transitioning into working for ourselves. Because for you, right, Sarah, like you came from already working for yourself. And knowing, setting up your systems and having doing your own bookkeeping and your own retirement account and health benefits and all that stuff, right? So you weren't letting go of that.
Yeah. But I also see my trajectory as like this, whereas yours, you were already up here. And I think it probably your mind ran the risk of having to dip before you came back up. And I don't know, did you have that much of it? Maybe we had 1 year that was a little bit, no, I don't know.
No, yay. It was even for the first 2 years, then it went up, and then, yeah, it's been a good ride.
Here, I'm glad to hear that.
And what
So,
about your doubts?
yeah, doubt started with not even really knowing what I wanted to do. But once I figured out what I wanted to do, I embraced it. I built it. I started real estate in Portland, and for whatever reason, that was relatively easy for me. I think just because of the sheer population of Portland, and that was where my network had been at the time. I had been in Portland area since 2009, and I did my first 5 transactions relatively quickly in the first couple months. But then I moved to Bend, and this is a fraction of the population of Portland here. Didn't know anyone, joined a brokerage with great people who welcomed me with open arms, but, like, just didn't really fit in, and again, wasn't in that spot where I was resonate. I did no business for probably a year. I don't know exactly, but I feel like I did no actual real estate business for a while, but I took on a job as a transaction coordinator, and I lived vicariously through everyone else's transactions, and that for me was one of the ways to overcome this early obstacle because I was still able to do real estate actively and keep learning in depth what the different communication styles were, what different transactions, what things popped up, the flow of things. Anyway, so I was able to do real estate without doing real estate. There was that, and then I met you, and that put me in a place of really of alignment with who I am, what I'm really here for, and began me on the path of putting myself around the people that aligned with me. And that's what opened up the door in terms of really changing things for doing business here on our own. My vision of bad these days is there's almost no bad. There's just lots of lessons. Got to embrace them.
One thing that I think is interesting to talk about is just, like, how we met, because then we can dive into some of the other details that make us a good team. But do you wanna share the story, Sarah?
Social media is obviously a very important aspect of business these days and very important in real estate business. So I, from the get-go, was always pretty active on social media. I actually got some early clients on that way before I met Suzanne, but started following Suzanne in Central Oregon. She and her polished way of being and her consistency was always posting amazing post about doing all this business in real estate investing, even though we didn't really know anything about her personal life from those posts, but we knew she was doing business
And we still don't.
investor focused. And I'm like, all right, what is this real estate investing thing? Why is this cool? And I don't know, maybe I want to do this. And it was like everything else, I feel like I started just out of naive curiosity. I dropped a DM in Suzanne's inbox and told her I was interested in real estate investing and asked her if she wanted to get together and chat about it. That's my memory of it. We got together and took a walk along the river, met at the canal, drank our turmeric latte.
What? It's so quintessentially Bend. Everything that our initial meetings. Yeah, at the Commons Cafe, getting our turmeric lattes, walking along the river. It was cold outside. I remember that because it was like October.
Peace out to Mexico.
Yeah, and what was ironic about the whole timing was, at least for me, was like I had basically just written down that I wanted some help while I was going to be gone because I was going to be gone for 3 months. And I wrote down what I wanted. And what I wrote down was I wanted to have a teammate who had kids. My
From
teammate,
all
I'd say, just an opposite schedule of me. And then here comes the DM from Sarah, and we meet and we walk, and it was exactly what I had asked for, and 100,000 million times better than I could have ever dreamed. Yeah, so that was just, it was like an answered prayer, honestly.
Mhm. I think I won you over when you asked me how much money I wanted to make in a year, right? You're like, this is my kind of girl.
But yeah, that's right.
So bad.
Yes, I know. And just speaking to some of the personality traits that we share that have played a role in our success, I think our shared ambition is a key piece to why we are successful. What do you think?
Oh, our personalities, yeah. I mean, it's so funny because we're really very different in a lot of ways as well as we get along. And for me, the puzzle piece I feel like is just you're this amazing, like I don't want to call you not judgmental because you are judgmental. I mean, you're just so easy to have any kind of conversation with and without like reaction, like you're just able to have very straightforward conversations. And I swear I was born with the inability to filter and I just am very direct. We just mesh in that way. And I think we share a lot of the same positive mindset things. I still just don't really know why we work so well together, but it's more perfect than anything. You're just very polished. I'm not like just this yin and yang, but beautifully intertwined.
Yeah, we complement each other on so many aspects of our approaches. And we also learn from each other. So I know when I first met you, I was so blown away by how quickly you would respond to people, like instantaneously. And that was just not my MO. And I think part of that was driven by perfectionism and also just being overwhelmed by still doing the corporate thing in addition. And I remember the year I met you, end of 21, one of my New Year's resolutions for that year was to follow up like Sarah and to just respond to people instead of worrying if it was perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I know, all good. I mean, we all know it has its pros and cons. I'm learning when not to respond. Boy, for me. I love that I got started in real estate during COVID. I think that contributed a lot to my instantaneous responses, honestly, because man, winning offers in those first couple of years of me being licensed was hard. Houses were gone in negative days. So you had to really be on top of it.
Sarah, what's your favorite part about being in real estate? You were a farmer.
Mhm.
Now you're a real estate broker.
Mhm. Being I love being a problem solver, honestly. Like I love challenges and challenging people sometimes. And that's not me inviting challenging people into my world. But I just really enjoy all types of people and the adaptivity and creativity that comes along with the people. And then just honestly, how different every single transaction. It's just fun. It's a fun way to spend my time and because it's people, there's this reciprocity that gives me a really big dopamine rush. It just feels really good when you really understand what people's goals are and what they're really going for and really being able to like actually help them through your job. And then piece one, and then like actually feeling like you're compensated well enough for your time. This is just the first time in my life where I've ever found a career that one can do that without going to school for 10 years, which is just not my jam. Just fits with all my strengths. It just really aligns.
Agreed. And I can relate to what you said. It's broader than just being in real estate. It's the focus on helping investors. That's what really brings me joy because in so many of the people we work with, I see myself 10 years ago when I started my real estate investing journey with the goal of creating enough passive income that I could do whatever I wanted with my time. And I'd no longer have to trade my time for money because I had this other passive income coming in. And that was so powerful and liberating for me to be able to create for myself that it's like I said at the beginning, that's why I got my license. Being able to help other people do that and achieve their really audacious goals of financial independence, freedom, whatever it is that drives people, spending more time with family, whatever. There's a variety of things, leaving W-2 jobs. That is what I find the most rewarding is helping people have the life that they dream of.
Mhm. Yeah, agreed. Like, it's great.
So we mentor a lot of newer real estate agents in our brokerage. Sarah, think back to your 2020 self. What advice would you give yourself at that time with what you know now?
I mean, I honestly really liked my own path. I mean, it's definitely get a mentor, definitely get a coach, definitely find someone who can actually hold you accountable, someone who's picking up the phone and checking in with you. The first brokerage I was with, I did have a mentor, and she actually was really good about picking up the phone and making sure I was doing the things. But I think one could be a little bit more intentional about who they choose, right? This person was sort of assigned to me. So I think it could have been even better if like I sought that person out or was maybe paying them specifically for that job. Yeah. So that, and like I said before, really liked having the opportunity to do transaction coordination and learn the industry through other people's transactions. And so it could be through having mentors that are willing to hold your hand through every part of your first couple transactions, or you could be branching out on your own and getting a side job and learning that way as well. What would I have done sooner? Honestly, I just would have found you sooner. But the thing is, everything led up to that. So there's no complaints. They're windy roads. What would you have done differently?
Well, the advice I would give someone in a W-2 job where we're used to security, if you want to call it that, of a paycheck and benefits and those types of things is like you were just saying, maybe get your license while you're still working and start establishing your business in real estate before taking the leap. And that's what I didn't do the first time. And it left me feeling like a failure.
Mhm.
So when I did it the second time, it was much better because I already had this very solid foundation in real estate that I felt confident leaving my W-2 job, even though it was going to be a loss of income. I made that up in no time in real estate. So, one other thing that I heard a lot when I was starting in real estate, when I first left Adidas, is everyone just said, real estate's hard. But no one explained what hard was. What about it's hard? I don't think real estate is that hard. What I love about it is that every single transaction is different. And I think what maybe everyone was talking about is it takes time to set up your systems and your processes.
Discipline and people work. Don't like discipline things are hard, right? And so I think that's maybe one reason why we excel too, is that you have to develop discipline in order to make it easy. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's exactly it. And I maybe what they were also saying was you got to figure out how you're going to get clients. You can't just rely on some paid lead source to have a sustainable business. You have to start establishing relationships within your own sphere of influence to have a business that keeps building on itself. So I just wanted to address that because that was something that was so annoying for me when I started. I was just, no one could explain to me what was hard about it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. Thanks for pointing that out. Something that occurred to me, or I was thinking of while you were talking there, was do you think there's any type of person who shouldn't get into real estate or real estate investing? What personality types or what should people know before they dive in? I guess the question I'm asking is like, if someone identifies as an introvert and a non-people person, does that necessarily mean that they wouldn't be good at real estate? And I think that because of what I've seen with some of our mentees, they are kind of nervous around people. And maybe that is like imposter syndrome, right? Feeding in the beginning when you feel not confident with what you know in this industry. Can you imagine any person or any world where someone shouldn't get into real estate?
No. As long as you like making money, I think real estate is a viable career for anyone who's willing to put in the work to build a sustainable business and or hire people to help.
Mhm. Yeah. Cool.
But you and I both know we have introverts in our brokerage that do really well in real estate. And they turn it on when they need to, and they turn it off and go recharge when they don't need to be out client facing. So that's good. I think it's a great industry for people that are introverts because you have a balance of being in front of clients and being behind the screen and doing the more admin side of business.
Love it. Yeah, I'm just curious because people are questioning, am I the right personality type or am I the right fit or am I enough in some way? I just see it as a very self-care type business. You learn a lot about self-improvement in this industry because it's you, like you are the business. It's taking care of this body and mind and soul or whatever is what I think for us. I think we're both really good at that. Helps project all positive things for ourselves and our clients and the people around us.
Agreed. And I guess I would also say it's not what it looks like on all of the fancy selling sunset TV shows. We're not out in our super high-end name brand outfits every day. And in fact, oftentimes we're in the office in our workout clothes and our running clothes, and that is who we are. So that's what I think people should understand is real estate is about being who you are because that is what resonates with people who want to work with you. For the clients that only want to work with high-end name brand wearing things, like we might not be the best.
Right?
And that's
All good. Again, like I'm open to it all, but
exactly
let's just know that, yeah, they can just know that we are who we are when they're getting into it, hopefully.
for sure.
So listen, I have this opinion that Bend in Central Oregon is an extremely magnetic place. Oregon in general is an amazing state, right? And that's where we're licensed and we can do business anywhere here. We're connected everywhere. And listen, you and I, Suzanne, know that we could choose to live anywhere we want, period. We could do whatever we want, right? I know that, you know that, but we've chosen Central Oregon. We put ourselves here intentionally. And for me, I think it's that sunshine, it's the high desert, dry, crisp, cool, clean air, mountain backgrounds, cold rivers and lakes and snowmelt and all the outdoor activity. Me knowing when I'm living my best life, I am outdoors and moving my body and soaking all of that in. And again, just translates to everything else. And I choose Bend, Oregon and selling real estate in Central Oregon specifically because I think everybody deserves a piece of this. I think everybody deserves access to this, whether it's part-time, full-time investing.
That's the thing for us. The people who are drawn to Central Oregon are people that we are automatically sharing something in common with because almost everyone who comes to Bend has some interest in accessing the outdoors and sunshine and living a life in a smaller city, but that still has enough going on. There's still cultural events and variety, I would say. So it's got a lot of different things, but the thing that brings most of us together is the fact that it's an outdoor mecca, and that is what helps us connect easily with so many different potential clients.
Yeah, agreed. And so I think that's a good segue into like, who is our client? What does our client base look like? What are the type of people that we're working with? What is the demographic? And do we approach different clients differently?
I would say the most popular thing we hear from people reaching out to us is I live somewhere else. I want to buy a place in Bend that I can use sometimes until I can get there full time.
Yeah.
And that is exactly how I got here. Was I bought an investment property to use as a vacation rental so that I could use it when I wanted to come down from Portland and that I could eventually live in when I thought I was going to have to wait until I retired. I didn't, but I think that is the most common thing because that's driven by the fact that Bend doesn't have a lot of industry. There are not a lot of large employers. So for a lot of people, it's, well, I want a piece of this, but I need to make my money over here
Mhm.
for the most part. There are a lot of people too that are relocating to Bend full time, oftentimes are working remotely.
Definitely. Yeah. I think there's for sure that piece. So the people who are in a position where they're looking forward to be able to afford a second home or an investment property in order to buy into our market and get in on our great appreciation rates here. But we also work with quite a few people who just want to buy their primary residence, a place that they're living in full time already, and they don't have any other investment properties. They don't necessarily have the resources to buy other properties yet, but I would say we definitely attract and work with residential buyers or people who are open to hearing why their home is a good investment and want to learn how they can leverage that great asset in order to continue to upgrade or expand over time as well. Yeah, it's great. We've got a great demographic that's it's fun working with. I think that kind of wraps up our intro. And let's talk about a takeaway from this episode. For me, listen, people who are real estate agents and who are looking to buy real estate in general as investments can come from all walks of life, right? You don't have to start, honestly, really with anything. There are ways to buy into real estate with nothing, right? There's methods, as we
Yeah.
know, methods that we help share and teach. So, really, just the only obstacle, if this is something that you want, is you. And it's really just about putting yourself in the way of success, putting yourself around the right people and having discipline, executing a plan and having discipline and accountability. Every
And being clear on what you want.
yes.
I think
Same.
we both can relate to that in our business, in our partnership, and in getting into real estate and helping our clients. We can only help people who know what they want, right?
Yeah, for sure. We know that. We have lots of people who are all over the place. And yeah, that's another one of our jobs, just helping people get focused and clear.
Yes.
Mhm. Love it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Suzanne and Sarah Real Estate Investing Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then subscribe and leave us a review because your feedback helps us reach people like you who are ready to elevate their lives. Don't forget to share this episode with someone who's passionate about real estate or personal growth. And for more tips, resources, and updates, follow us on Insta or visit us at centraloregoninvestornetwork.com. And remember, you have the power to design the life you want, one real estate investment at a time. See you next week.